So just look
why
for the
wouldn't
red
they?
light on the top.
Oh,
And there it
there
is.
you
Looks like
are.
we're live. Yay! Oh, Kim, it's so good to see you. All right, so
Good
the
to see
live
you.
comments are up here so I can see them as we go. Hey, everybody. Hello, parents. We're here for the third of three. Board of Ed, Hopewell Valley Regional School District Board of Education interviews. And it is our honor here tonight to have Kim Stolow. Kim is, this is your first time. Hi. First time running for the Board of Ed and locally for anything? Is it? Nice. All right, I'm going to read from the centraljersey.com article about the parents. Kim Stolow. Am I pronouncing that correctly, by the way? Stolow?
Yes, you are. Good job. Yep.
Okay.
Stolow.
Okay. Stolow is a single mom. Woo! All right. Living in Brandon Farms with a preschooler at Stony Brook Elementary. Dr. Stolow is a therapist, social worker, and has a private practice in Pennington where she works with children, adults, and seniors. She is also a part-time lecturer, adjunct professor at Rutgers School of Social Work. Stolow received an Excellence in Teaching Awards from the Master of Social Work program. Wow. In addition, she regularly presents on issues that include trauma, resilience in children, and child abuse. So this is very heavy. Stolow co-authored a training module on the subject of child abuse for the Division of Child Protection and Permanency that all current caseworkers and supervisors must complete. That's a big deal. She's also a published author on the topics of childhood trauma and redefining resilience. As a therapist, she volunteered both at a camp for children who have lost a parent or siblings. Would that be experience camps? By the way?
I'm sorry?
Would that be camp experience?
No, it's called Comfort Zone Camp.
Okay. And they helped young adults involved in community service. She served as board vice president for the state chapter of the American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children. Well, that's a pretty heavy start for a lovely Sunday evening.
I know.
But welcome. And so tell us more. Please tell us about what you want to do, your platform, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, like you had already said, I have a son, Luke, who is 3 years old, and he just started at the Peach program over at Stony Brook. He's got some speech delays, so I've had the opportunity to work with the social workers and getting him set up with an IEP and the child study team, and so I've kind of just gotten a lot more involved with the school district. And as a social worker, I'm always teaching my students and my clients about advocacy, about ways to make change, and this felt like a really good natural place for me to kind of step in. It's really important that my son have a good education, but it's important for all kids. And I think that I have a unique lens as a social worker, as a therapist, but as also a single mom. And I think it's really important that there be different voices on the board when there comes to decision making and having a certain perspective. I think that everyone tries to see all sides, but I think it just really helps to have someone who's actually living it, so I think I just have a lot to offer.
So nobody there now is a single parent on the board. Nope. And so you bring a whole new different perspective from your
And I live in Brandon Farms too, right? And I think this is a huge area, and I think again this is.
Are you guys represented in any way?
Not now. Are you? There's no one on there's no one on the board.
So that's your pitch. Yeah. And now let's back up for just 1 second. How long have you been a single mom?
3 years.
3 years. Day one?
Yeah. Day one.
Oh, wow. Very brave. Very, very brave. So you can really speak to this. This is old hat for you.
Well,
You know what it's all about.
yeah, I'm still fairly new to the motherhood thing, but I'm very, very thankful that I have an amazing family. So my parents live here in Brandon Farms, a street over, so they are an integral part of helping me care for my kids, my son, and my sister lives also in town, and so just having them close is really, really helpful, and I'm really blessed. But yeah, so I've done this from day one, and again, as it's a different. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted. The dog's getting a little busy. So have you ever joined us in any of our Zoom meetings?
Not
You and
yet,
your
not
sister?
yet.
No? Okay. For
No,
some
not
reason.
yet.
All right.
So
Okay.
it is my intent to. I'm
So it
starting to.
I was just going to say it's good to have family around to support you. So you'd be able to get to board meetings. You'd be able to, I mean, it's a big load, right? To not only attend the board meetings, but then all that is involved with that.
Committee meetings and things like that, and as that as single parents, how we choose to spend our time is really important, right? That the things that we do are of we have to prioritize in ways that other people don't, and so that should just kind of give you some insight into how important this is to me, that I'm willing to take some time away from being a mom, and for those hours a week or month, because I think this does provide my child a better education, but also I want to be able to. I want other single parents and other working parents to also be actively a part of the education system. One of the things that I wrote a letter to the editor, because one of the things that the board took away was being able to make public comment online, that now if you want to participate, that you could still watch the Zoom board meetings, but in order to make a comment, you actually have to go to the meeting. And I think that that's a disservice to single parents, working parents who want to be involved in their kids' education, but can't get there because of childcare, because of lack of transportation, because they have to work, things like that. So again, I want to be that voice that gets to say, hey, I get why you're making this decision, but we need to have this perspective. We need to make sure that we have, access is such an important part of this.
That actually really, I didn't know that, and I could have asked. So this is really key. I find that pretty curious, because we do run parallel with working parents. We have the same issues, and a lot of meetings do get held during the day. That's a problem with the PTO meetings. That was a problem with our counselor-led meetings for the single parents, and has been a constant question: how can we do this at night? But then also to have to afford that childcare, and to juggle how to get yourself to a board meeting in order to make a comment.
Right.
There
Right.
is, and they never answered that, or did they answer it?
They did. I did. Well, they didn't. I had written to the board when I saw it, because they put out a statement about the change in making public comment, and the president did write me back, and their answer was that people can still write in and make a comment through email, things of that nature, and that something to the effect of the technology isn't up to par, But I feel like in the age of COVID and things like that, that then we need to make it up to par, because, you know, God forbid there's another pandemic of some sort. We need to be able to have an infrastructure where we continue life, right? So to me, it's an important, like, thing to pay attention to, and that it shouldn't be something we skimp on.
You know, and of course, while you say this, we're getting a delay on Facebook. But it's totally not the Board of Education's problem.
No.
There are questions. Carolyn had asked this before, and she's coming in live with live comments now, asking, and I believe you answered these questions too in the Q&A on Central Jersey. But how many have you attended throughout the year? How many meetings?
I haven't, but I have not been able to attend those meetings. I did watch after that, like, so not when they were live, but I did watch the read the minutes and watch some of the live feeds of the meetings.
You know, so how would you be able to attend if you are voted onto the board? Because it's how would that work out?
Yeah, no, I would move my schedule around to allow for that. My family has already said that they would watch my son and make sure that this was something that I could absolutely attend.
Well, yeah, because then it could be a steady thing for you, so you could manage to get in.
And it's planned ahead of time, so it's something that I could, you know, plan and account for. So again, like I said, I have a wonderful support system in my family, so they are on board.
Yeah. So what do you think are, so still kind of sticking to that a little bit, what support do you think you need as a candidate to, help understand the needs of single parents across the, Hopewell Valley? How could we serve each other, perhaps? How can we help each other in that regard?
Well, I think one of my skills is communication. And I think, as a social worker and therapist, I am really good at reaching out and talking to people and hearing people. And, I think collaboration is super, super important. And so being a part of this group and being, always having my ear open to unique problems that occur within our group, living in Brandon Farms and just kind of talking to people in my neighborhood. A lot of them say, we do not feel represented here.
And I'm still curious about, like, with Brandon Farms, it seems like that's a pretty large single parent contingent there. You're saying, yeah. So we need to get data on that, I think, and and see what we can do for that. So Carolyn here is asking if you have any committees. What committees of the board are you interested in joining?
So, I was actually, one of the things that I had noticed was the current president was speaking about creating a committee for mental health specifically, and taking it out of the education committee and making it its own separate committee. And I think that it would probably be important to have someone who's actually in the mental health field be a part of that committee, because I think that, again, I have a unique lens in terms of my occupation. I teach mental health at Rutgers in their master's program. And so to me, especially after, obviously mental health has always been super important to me. But since COVID, kids are suffering. And, it used to be, although I have to say Hopewell is wonderful with their mental health services in ways that a lot of other townships aren't. But there's always used to be this separation between like mental health and education. And it, you know, when there was mental health services provided to a child, it was always around education, right? So how do we contain the behavior so that they can learn? How do we, you know, address this so you do your homework, things like that. There's been kind of this shift because of this acknowledgement that if we don't have stable mental health, if we don't address the issues that are concerning these kids, education is so secondary. And so, you know, I think that this shift, especially with the pandemic, has really started to kind of mesh this education and mental health services and make it super, super important. We have kids that, you know, are really suffering, and the pandemic really just exacerbated, you know, their
You know,
underlying.
you're making me think, you know, because this is new for us. We're a new group, about 18 months going, and we're trying to figure out where we can be, you know, participate more, and just, you know, to support parents. And what's got me thinking about this more is maybe where the Board of Ed, as far as mental health is concerned, I think it was exceedingly helpful to have a counselor assigned to us. And that was Dr. Smith, right? He assigned Christine Abrams, and the amount of people who turned up was pretty significant. And what was nice about it is it just kind of gave us a chance to know that others were out there. I really only thought we were a handful. And there are many, many more. And Brandon Farms, we've been trying to figure that out. If we do a community gathering, we need to do it not just here in Hopewell Borough because we're too far away. So anyhow, back to having a counselor-led program. We don't need that weekly right now, and it was a wonderful service for us last year during the pandemic, and, you know, just trying to do the hybrid schooling, and everybody's dealing with their children at home, and single parents having to just, you know, children underfoot and doing it all by yourself and fielding everything, as we were. But how can we, you know, then that's kind of a budget thing. How do we do that so we can keep this service and not rely on any, you know, having to become a 501c3? I mean, you know, I'm just trying to think how we can keep operating as a group, and the school could provide something for us. And is that something where you think the Board of Ed could lean in a bit for our group?
I think it's important that we do, because I think that as
for counseling, you know, the school counselors for the group.
Well, I think that we as a society in general need to look at the whole family system when we think about education. We are not just working with kids ever, right? Kids go home and there's family life situations, and we have to look at it as a larger system. And so if we're going to provide services to kids, we have to also look at the total family system. I think, you know, I know that there's, you know, programs where, you know, working with the parents regarding parenting and stuff like that. And I think that's wonderful. I think things like that only help kids, right? Teaching parents about how to, you know, not just only addressing stuff that they might be struggling with, you know, with their own stuff, but also how do I deal with the current situations that kids are dealing with? How do I best support my child after a bomb threat, right? What does that look like? How do I know? Because teenagers aren't the greatest at talking to their parents about their problems. You know, what can I say to them to let them know that they can talk to me, things like that. And I think that we need to look at it again in the larger sense, and then also I think providing services to parents has to be part of that plan.
Well, a happy parent, happy children, right? I mean, the school is not to necessarily cater to us, but if there's any means of support, outreach, now we did talk about, you were talking about the pandemic, and Carolyn here is shot in wondering what you think the school did get right with COVID. And where,
A
you know,
lot, a lot. Like I am super, super impressed with what the school personnel did for these kids. And again, I saw a lot of kids during the pandemic and continue to, and I'm super impressed by the level of involvement that, the attention to mental health, the, home visits, providing mental health services. I have several
so
friends who
when
are
you say
teachers.
home visits, when you say home visits, you mean when they were all hopping on the bus, driving up to houses, wondering what happened to the children? Do you mean that by
Yes.
home visits?
Well,
I thought that
visiting
was the best thing I ever heard. Like, I
huh?
think that was Lori Rotondo. I think that was Lori Rotondo leading the charge when they all hopped in a bus and
To
started
check in
knocking
on,
on doors.
and I think that like that extra step, right? The care that these teachers have for these kids, the worry that they have. I have several friends who are teachers in the district, and what they've done for their kids, just reaching out, and I think they did the best they could under the circumstances that were absolutely horrific. And I think that unlike a lot of other districts, I think that Hopewell had an infrastructure that was primed and ready to go for something like this, right? In ways that other districts, they had to get laptops or iPads or,
Yeah, Trenton, it was pretty bad. That was terrible what happened with Trenton.
yes,
And then no Wi-Fi,
right,
yeah.
right,
And
right. So
so our district really did have a leg up, so we really were. But so back to anything where you thought maybe we fell short. We did touch on that a little bit, but
um,
anything,
it's not that no, I don't think anything necessarily. I was I
or
wanted
maybe
the
it's the
kids.
Brandon Farms, like they're still feeling a little left out, or what is exactly
So I think that
needs to be tapped in with
when it
Brandon
comes to
Farms.
COVID, I think we have to be careful in terms of painting a broad stroke on COVID response, because I think that everyone's situation is so personal, right? Everyone's physical health is different. Everyone's work status is different, and so everyone has very differing opinions on whether or not we should have gone back, what that should have looked like. I talked to someone today that didn't feel comfortable that the playgrounds are open. So I think everyone has very varying,
Because of COVID?
yeah, because everyone's anxiety level is different. And again, their health situation is different. So, and I do respect that everyone has varying opinions. So it's hard to kind of measure responses to, people's feelings around the COVID response, because I think it's so cloaked in anxiety and worry, and their own personal life situation.
And
Um,
it still feels that way.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But I think overall, most parents that I have talked to and kids are really happy to be back in school. It almost didn't happen, it seems. It was one vote from the board kind of tipped that over, and I'm glad that it did. Kids needed to go back to school. And the friends that I have that are teachers were really happy because they felt like more effective and happier to be back in the school, and they all feel really supported by their school administrations, they feel safe, they feel like they have what they need to be healthy and safe and to keep the kids healthy and safe.
Have you ever attended the Hopewell Valley Municipal Alliance meetings?
I have not.
The youth, for youth. You know, we joined them last year. They welcomed us to join, and I'm just curious if maybe there's a Stony Brook, if there's Stony Brook representation there. And, you know, so maybe offline we should talk about that, and you can reach out to Heidi Kame just to say, you know, whatever happens with this, you know, with the Board of Ed, I think that's something you should look into. Because I don't believe, and I could be wrong, and apologies to anybody who is, but right off the top of my head, I'm not sure, you know, anybody from Stony Brook really speaks to that. And then also other groups. I saw you last week on the Strive meeting. Yes? Were you on that?
I was.
So you attend, you attend the Strive. And what do you do anything for Strive, or are you listening in? And you know, I mostly listen in. I like to join the moms.
I just started with them. Again, my son just entered into the school district in September, so I am slowly kind of figuring out what his needs are, and then getting myself involved again to give back to the community and the school district, but also to kind of, you know, best meet my son's needs. So
how do you feel about the special ed system here in Hopewell Valley, per Carolyn's live comments?
I think that overall, it is a wonderful aspect of this district. I think that it is one of the reasons that the education system in general is one of the reasons that I moved here. I have a lot of friends that live here. My sister moved here first. And my first introduction was seeing one of the plays. And I was a theater kid, super impressed with the theater program. It was something important for me, not that my son's necessarily going to be into theater. I hope he is, but we will see. But, you know, that kind of got me more interested in just valuing the arts. To me is like super important. And then from there, I started to hear just all these amazing things, and that in this district that parents don't have to fight in the same way to get services for their kids that they have to fight in other districts. That other, you know, other districts, you have to get a lawyer and you have to really fight to get what we all know that the kid needs. And so, which is absolutely.
What would be an example? What would be an example?
I've had just a lot of clients who, you know, their child has an anxiety disorder, PTSD. Again, I work with a lot of kids. I used to be up in North Brunswick, so I had a lot of kids from New Brunswick area. So we have a lot of parents that are overworked. They don't have the same amount of resources as other communities, and they don't know what their rights are, their legal rights are in terms of education. And, you know, we have kids who are suffering in school. They need extra services, support services, and they go to the school and they ask for it and they're told that their kid is fine, they don't need it. And this is something really common with kids that I've worked with in other districts. And I have gone to schools to really advocate for the kids that I've worked with. I have written numerous letters. I have, you know, to the best that I can. I don't know that it always was successful, but really tried to get them what they needed. And it hasn't been that way for a lot of kids that I've worked with in this school district. And even with my son.
You know, what's interesting is that sometimes sometimes a parent doesn't know, like myself. I didn't, my son was struggling in a former school district, but I saw other children struggling more so. So I didn't know to push a little further to get my child more. So I kind of pulled back. But then I come here and Hopewell Elementary just said, well, we have the resources and he needs, you know, X, Y, and Z, and this is what we're going to do. And it was, you know, we can only advocate for what we really understand is going on. And when there isn't a healthy balance of somebody to talk to, like the other parent, to discuss it, you know, we're kind of, well, we're flying solo with it, right? We're twisting in the wind at some point. And I certainly was way far away from family members. So that's why I'm back here. So all right. So what, first of all, I want you to come to this community gathering so we can meet and chat some more. And I do think we should chat offline to see, you know, to speak with the Hopewell Valley Municipal Alliance to see where there could be, if there is representation and where there could be. And then also as far as the mental health, there's a group from the Hopewell Valley Municipal Alliance through the township, Hopewell Township, and maybe there could be a conversation with them too. This, I don't know if they're health, I don't know the name. But it's something for the you know, underserved community, really, for healthcare and healthcare needs, which of course would include mental health. Largest obstacle you see within the district. We've really kind of danced around a lot of issues, but that's a good question. You know, what do you see are the largest obstacles, and how do you see yourself becoming a part of the solution?
So I see it two ways. I think that the largest obstacle, I see two things: mental health, right? And I think that mental health really has to take a front seat right now. I'm worried about kids right now. I'm worried about how they're coping, how all of the, you know, I think what I'm seeing in my own practice, and even what I know from myself and people around me, is that it's like we were all holding our breath for the last year and a half. And now that they're, you know, we were all, one of the things I always say to my client during the last year and a half has been surviving, not striving. We just need to survive right now. Anything beyond that is excess. And if you get there, great. But right now we just have to get through this. And we're getting to the point where there's that like light at the end of the tunnel. And I think what I'm worried about, because what I know about mental health is that this is when, once we start letting our guard down in terms of, okay, you know, we start letting the breath out, that's when things start to come to the surface. And we have to be prepared to provide what kids are going to need when things start getting more back to normal. And I know that we're slowly getting there, but I think the more normal things get, the harder it's actually going to get for kids. So I think that, you know, we really have to focus on the mental health piece.
Give us an example of what you mean by that last statement. It's going to be harder. What's an example?
That kids are going to become more depressed, that their anxiety level, because everyone's been so hyper focused on just getting by, that they haven't necessarily been dealing with the trauma of the last year and a half, right? And so as we all start letting our guard down and relaxing and not being so pigeonholed in terms of like just getting by, suddenly we start to realize that 700,000 people died and my life has been so disrupted, and that I was scared, that I have been scared for the last year and a half, right? I didn't let myself know that because I just had to get by, even as a parent. Right?
So PTSD. So it's PTSD will set in that, wow, look what we just went through.
Trauma symptoms for sure. And, you know, there are certain things in our society that really change us fundamentally, 9/11 being one of them, right? We are
Yep.
different people. And since 9/11, the level of anxiety in our society has escalated tremendously. And so, you know, things like that. And COVID is going to be one of those situations that, you know, escalates everyone's anxiety and really changes us as people. And we have to be prepared for that. And the other piece is representation. I think that will continue to be an obstacle. And again, it's one of the reasons that I'm running, is that there needs to be a voice for people who live in Brandon Farms. There needs to be someone who says, yes, but can the single parent make it to that meeting? If they can't, then we have to come up with another option. You know, I watched your interview the other day. You know, one of the things that single parents have to do is plan, right? Nothing can be spontaneous. I need to know how my kid's getting here to here. I need to plan for all possible scenarios. And we need to keep that in mind when we're creating, you know, when there's a bomb threat, when suddenly we have to close because of a pandemic, that there needs to be someone say,
And to rely on the buses.
Right.
On transportation.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, the bomb scare, in just, you know, any other early dismissal, that is always, you know, that is always a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Not only are we scared,
right,
but we're also inconvenienced. You know, right? Because we just, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to, you know, there, and then like you just said, you have to start mapping out in your head how this is going to, you know, roll out from there. You can't just call somebody necessarily.
Right. But also
I mean, it sounds like the two of us are fortunate. Well, we're fortunate enough that we have our family around who could step in and support us. And, you know, tell us a little bit more about your single parenting and obstacles for you. And like, let's keep going with this so we know a little bit more about you as a single parent here in the Hopewell Valley.
Yeah, you know.
You've been here the last 3 years?
I've been here almost 4 years.
4 years, okay.
Yeah, I moved here about 4 years ago. It's been an interesting, difficult 3 years. I am blessed with an amazing child, but it has, like everyone else, the pandemic really made things a lot more difficult, right? So I'm home with a kid. I have, you know, my parents are senior citizens. So in the beginning, I have to do therapy because I'm the only person in my household making money. You know, it's me.
So you're a member of the sandwich generation.
Yes.
I'm calling myself a panini generation. Do not tell my parents. No, yeah. So now you're managing.
So,
more.
You know, I had to like do therapy sessions because I have to pay my bills. But I also am taking care of my, you know, 2-year-old, and he's having temper tantrums in the background while I'm trying to do therapy. And so I'm juggling. Eventually, as we start to understand COVID, my parents were able to, you know, help a bit, but I was doing therapy while he was napping and doing therapy when he went to sleep and kind of, you know, and we all had this juggle. But, you know, as a single parent, it was really difficult to figure that out. And, you know, I also think finances, we have to remember in Hopewell Valley, like that, you know, we should it's so expensive to live in this town. Even to rent in this town is so expensive. Yeah. And we really need to be mindful of, you know, the budget and what the money's going to. And I think that we as a town, we are better for having a diverse population. We are better, and not just diversity in terms of race, religion, things of that nature, but socioeconomic levels. I think we are better for having that. And you have that in Brandon Farms, and you need to make it more accessible. You need to help people feel heard and supported, and not just say, hey, we're going to add another few $1,000,000 here, everyone will be fine, that's only $20 more. Well, that could be a huge deal. That might not be a huge deal to some other people living in this town, but it's a huge deal to someone else. And we have to, again, have someone there saying, hey, wait, but what about this? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just 12 things just ran through my head, but we're out of time.
I know.
Yeah. So let's carry on this conversation. And I'm so glad you joined our group.
Me too.
So much more we can do. I feel like there's so much more we can do with you, Kim. And yeah, let's keep it up.
Yeah, and to be honest, I hope that I win, but if I don't, I'm not going anywhere. I still, I think I have an important voice, and I think you
do, and there are other outlets for you.
Absolutely. So I'm here to stay.
Yeah, good. Hey, listen, I have a bonus question for you, bonus round question. Do you know how to jump your own car? No. Oh, gosh.
I know. So here's the thing. Yes, but I also I lease my car so that I don't have to deal with a lot of car issues for that specific reason. And I have a dad who knows how to do everything, and it has.
Oh, dad! All right, that's good.
So it has inhibited.
Well, I'm asking because we were just jumping one of our cars out in the driveway. I just taught my son how to do it. So I just thought, that is like a bonus round question.
I can change a tire.
Every single parent needs to know.
I can change a tire.
No, see, that's where I'm like AAA. So I'm a firm believer in AAA or any of those cars.
I have that.
They're tired of me around here, but that's why I decided I better buy my own jumper cables. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was so pleasant to meet you tonight. Really pleasant. And we look forward to seeing more of you. And thanks again. Thank you. And when you come, everybody, when we have our community meeting, we have these fabulous ribbon lanyard.
Oh,
lanyard.
Fancy. I can't wait.
We'll be passing those around. Thank you. Care of Mark Bovedizer. He bought these for us. So it's coming, and they're so soft and shiny. They're very nice.
I can't wait.
All right. Thanks again.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.